Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the public hearing for the School Board Apportionment Plan 6. This is Angelita Benally. I work for the Office of Legislative Services, and I'm the advisor for the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. And I'd like to welcome everybody who's joined on, and I'd like to thank you in advance for your time and your interest in this public hearing. We have a public hearing agenda that's on this screen that I'd like to share with you. And I'll be moving it down to the body of the public hearing. And I'll be moving it down to the bottom. Okay, and we have Council Delegate Pernell Holona, who is a member of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. Honorable Delegate Holona, if you could open up, maybe do the welcoming and introduction, if you would.
Good afternoon. Yeah, this is Delegate Pernell Holona from Telecommunicati. I'd like to welcome everybody to this public hearing review. I would imagine it's what we're working on right now. I have the agenda in front of me. Is there anybody else on the line besides me as far as delegates? Angelita? Hello, can we hear me?
Oh,
Give me that book, my book. No.
Delegate Holona, your signal is not coming in very clear.
Let me see if I can get to a better location here. Angelita, are we doing a meeting with the
Yes, Honorable Delegate Holona, we are in a Zoom meeting of the public hearing, and that's from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And right now you're live on air. And as a member of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee, I was wondering if you would like to introduce yourself and maybe possibly if you would like to make any comments as well.
Okay, yes, I don't know. I tried to introduce myself already. I'll do it again. This is Delegate Pernell Holona. I represent Tohatchi, Chitty, Twin Lakes, Coyote Canyon, and Mexican Springs. And we've been working on this apportionment plan for a little over 2 years now, maybe almost 3. It's going into its 3rd year that we've been started to initiate this apportionment plan for the school board system. And right today we're doing public notices and to see what kind of comments that we can get from the public. And right now, I just want to see, is there anybody on the line who would all like to introduce yourselves? If you had any comments, I appreciate you make your comments. As far as Apportionment Plan 6 is concerned, the reason why we went with this Plan 6 is because there's a lot of situations that we have where we have 64 school boards. Many of the school boards doing a good job, and but then there are others who are not performing as well as we need to perform. The other reason why is because of the administration. We're having trouble with the administration. The school boards keep changing out the principals of the schools when they in a disagreement. A lot of the community members have a lot of complaints about the school board because they hire on preferably they hire on their own family members. There's a lot of complaints that we get as well, and some of the other people in the community that have qualifications are not being hired on. There's just so many. I don't think so. There's so many different scenarios that are happening. And then, so in order to even out the playing field so that everybody has a fair chance, we decided to cut the board apportionment plan was to cut down the school boards and have 1 representative from each community instead of 5 representatives, one community. And that will even out the playing field, to give everybody even chance to be able to be hired on at the school system without being having any prejudice. And the other main reason is just to keep try to have our school system upgraded somehow, if you will. Our students around the Navajo Nation, they're going to college after they graduate. But the students that we have that are going to college, they're not meeting their requirements. They're graduating with some of them with 10th grade reading levels and 7th grade math levels, and that's not sufficient for them to make it into the college system. And then when they go to college, they're not in college classes. Usually the first year and a half, the colleges are paying for what they call remedial classes. And those remedial classes that they're taking when they pass those classes, it doesn't count towards their college credits. They're just like trying to catch up from high school. And as we move along, they drop out. And it's pretty much because they're not ready for high school or college classes. They're not ready to go to college right out of high school. So part of that is the situation that we're trying to curb. And it starts from the school board and administrators to work together to put a program together for the students so that they're going to be there to learn, to move forward in their life, to pick up everything they can as far as their education is concerned. And that as we, when we move along and they go into these remedial courses in college, we're paying that scholarship funding. And our scholarship monies are going to the students that are not going to make it in college. They're dropping out after the first year or a year and a half. And so the problem there is twofold. Number one is the colleges are not wanting to have these remedial courses to teach these students. They want students coming into the colleges who are already college ready to continue with their education and start receiving college credits from the very first day that they join the college and the system. And then the second thing, it would be the colleges are paying for these remedial courses. They're expressing their disconcern. They're concerned about not wanting to pay for having to put these students through remedial courses. They don't want to pay for it. Right now, the colleges are paying for it. Even though the scholarship money is going to the school, it's still not enough to pay for the program to continue. And so the colleges are losing the money in that respect with all these students that are going to take remedial courses. And then we're coming up to the point where the federal government is starting to question us. They're questioning the fact that why are we having to allocate so much money, so many funds to the school system here for these scholarships, and since the students aren't ready and they're going to college, taking remedial courses, the federal government doesn't want to be talking about they could be cutting down on the funding for scholarship funds. So it's a domino effect. That's what's happening in our school system. And to cut down on all the problems and the situations that are occurring right now, if we had one representative from each district or each area and have a 5-member school board, in some areas where they're smaller, have a 4-member school board, they'll have a better representation from each committee from a wider area of community, I would say, and that they would be more apt, more able to work together and to try to put programs together for their students. And so I always use the example of the McKinney County School Board over here in the Mexico side of the reservation. They have 5-member school board and Gallup-McKinney School Board, and they are also elected members. The Gallup-McKinney County School Board oversees 33 schools. And out of that 33 schools, when they do meet to hire principals and faculty and all the stuff that school boards are in charge of, they don't get paid. The Gallup-McKinney County School Board does this job. They get elected, but they're not compensated for this work. Whereas we out here, we have 64 school boards, but we're getting paid, but it seems like we're not really getting our money's worth. And so if we cut down the school boards, we can use that money, the extra money, to put back into the education system for the students so that the principals can have more funding to work with to create these programs for higher education and higher learning. So this is the main part of the reasons why, and there are several other reasons. I can't really think of any more right now, but those are the main key points right there on why we want to cut the school board system down. Right now, at this point, that's my input as far as how we want to strategize the school system. And according to the laws, every 4 years or a certain time period, we look at the school board system, and over the past so many years, they've just been moving it forward without any changes, without making any requirements for these school boards to perform at a higher level. The other thing that I looked at too is that when we have these that people apply for these positions, the requirements to be on the school board are real minimal. They don't request for anybody who has a college education. They don't request for anybody that has administrative background, or it's just an open it's just an open election where people can apply for it, and anybody can apply for the school. And so when they get on the school board, then they got to start learning how to be an administrative person, to where they're going to have to learn how the school works and what needs to be happening, what their job duties are. And so it was my hope that we could work with the system where we could put these kind of policies in place, to where a person has to have some sort of a degree, has to have some sort of background in education, some sort of background in administration to apply for these positions, but we haven't gone that far yet. So the qualifications, in my point of view, need to be more stringent, more stronger for these people to come on to be elected and to hold a position on the school board. So those are my comments right now as far as what we're trying to do here. The other thing is, everybody says status quo, leave it alone, do the same thing. But when you look at something in your own personal life and there's something not quite right, you make a move and you change things to make it right, to either better your job performance or your home style, lifestyle, or what's happening in your own personal life. You always move something. You change something to try to make it better for yourself, or to better for other people to be around you, or your family members, or your co-workers. And so right now, the status quo doesn't work. We've been doing the status quo for how many years? And we're not getting any results. And so this is the reason why we decided to go with Apportionment Plan 6, to cut down the school board system, as well as try to make it better for the students and the administration to work together. And I just can't see that if something's wrong and not working right, it needs to be fixed somehow. And this is one way that we're choosing to try to work the system. And of course, if it doesn't work, there's always modifications along the way as we move forward. Right now, we can always see that it's not working for our students. It's not working for them to go into high school, college, and have a successful career in college and a career in life. And so our thinking is to try this new plan, and let's see how farther down the road that we can get. And hopefully some things will come out of it that is going to be good. And but if later on we see that it's not working quite right, we can always change the plan a little bit to make it work and fit for our students and for our school administration, as well as the school boards. So that's my take as far as the apportionment plan right now. Angelita, Ms. Benali, did I miss anything there?
Honorable Delegate Halona. Yes, well, thank you for opening it up and explaining the public hearing and the timeline of where we are up to today. There's some additional information that I'm going to be reading to share with the individuals who called online. Does that complete your comments, Honorable Delegate Halona?
That'll complete my comment at this time until I get any questions that I might be able to try to answer for people who would like to pose any questions, Ms. Benali.
Okay, thank you. That's very much appreciated, and appreciate your time that you're spending here with this public hearing, Honorable Delegate Halona. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'd like to share some additional information about the purpose of the hearing. And the purpose of the hearing is primarily the purpose of getting into input and comments on Plan 6, as well as providing information about Plan 6 to the public. The court has approved the plan, but it is requiring more input and comment from the public. Plan 6 is the 5 agencies listed: Central, Eastern, Fort Defiance, Northern, and Western. The plan shows a list of schools in each of the agencies, and they list all the chapters that are represented. Most school boards represent more than one chapter, except the schools in satellite chapters. There are single and at-large positions in each agency. A central agency, there will be 2 school boards, each representing more than one school. Each board will consist of 5 members. There will be a total of 10 school board members in the agency. B, Eastern Agency, there will be 6 school board, 3 representing more than one school and more than one chapter. The other 3 will be the school in the satellite communities, which with their own school board and chapter based. Each board will consist of 5 members with a total of 30 school board members in the agency. Fort Defiance Agency, there will be 2 school board members, each representing more than one school and more than one chapter, or from more than one chapter. Each board will consist of 5 members, totaling 10 members in the agency. In Northern Agency, there will be 3 school boards, 2 representing more than one school, each with 5 members. Navajo Prep will have its own school board and 4 members at large by agency. Each of the 3 school boards will represent more than one chapter. All positions are at large, except Shiprock will have 2 members. There will be a total of 14 school board members in Northern Agency. Western Agency, there will be 3 school boards, 2 representing more than one school, each with 5 members. Richfield Residential Hall will have its own board with 4 members. All positions in this agency will be elected at large from assigned chapters. What is a school apportionment plan? A school board apportionment plan determines the number of positions on a school board. The plan takes into account the number of school children and chapters to be represented. There are 2 provisions from the election code regarding this. And they read, the apportionment plan shall be based at a minimum on the number of students attending 1 or more chapters. Each local community school board shall provide to the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee and the Division of Diné Education current and accurate information regarding the number of students attending the local community school for use in development of the apportionment plan by October 2003 and every 4 years thereafter. That's 11 NNC section 11D. The Health, Education, and Human Services Committee shall apportion a number of school board seats. Can you please mute your phone? That would help us be able to focus on information that's being provided. The Health, Education, and Human Services Committee shall apportion the number of school board seats among the chapter or chapters represented in each local community school board. This apportionment shall establish election precincts for each local community school board containing approximately equal number of students attending the local community school at the time of the apportionment. And that's at 11 NNC section 11B. What types of school are covered under apportionment plans for schools under the election code? Generally, those funded or operated by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and in this case, the Bureau of Indian Education. Here it is, the election code says the local community school board, members of a local community school board who are elected pursuant to the Navajo Nation election code. Local community school board members include those members elected to the governing boards of schools operated or funded by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and that's the Bureau of Indian Education, for the education of Navajo children within the Navajo Nation, but does not include members of the school boards for private, parochial, and state public schools. And that's at 11 NNC section 110. And when and how often is the school board apportionment plan adopted? The election code requires that school board apportionment plans be adopted every 4 years. And the election code states on or before the first Monday of November 2003 and every 4 years thereafter, the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee of the Navajo Nation Council shall set the size of each local community school board and shall apportion the number of school board seats among the chapter or chapters represented in each local community school board. This apportionment shall establish election precincts for each local community school board containing approximately equal numbers of students attending the local community school at the time of the apportionment. And that's at 11 NNC section 11B. And what does the consultation mean for the purpose of developing and adopting a school board apportionment plan? In the development of the school board apportionment plan, there is the requirement of consultation. Essentially, the election code defines consultation as follows. Consultation means notice of the proposed school board apportionment plan and an opportunity to comment on the proposed apportionment plan. The consultation period is 60 days. There is a consultation period that runs for at least 60 days. During this time, the public input is provided for, as well as hearings and opportunity to submit written comments. Public input, there must be an opportunity for input provided to the Navajo Board of Election Supervisors, parents, local school boards, chapters, school board organizations such as agency school boards, and the Navajo Division of Dene Education. This input can either be in writing or through oral testimony. Hearings, although hearings are not required, the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee can hold hearings at the schools, chapters, communities, or agencies affected by the proposed reapportionment plan. If hearings are held, there can be reasonable restrictions imposed at these hearings, such as length of time for testimony. And that's at 11 NNC section 1H. Written comments can be provided by those that are interested in submitting them. 6, how many members can make up a school board? 3 to 7 members. Here is what the election code says. A local community school board shall consist of not less than 3 nor more than 7 members based on the current adopted apportionment plan. And that's at 11 NNC section 11A. And who must approve a school board apportionment plan? Under the Navajo Election Code, the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee of the Navajo Nation Council approves the final school board apportionment plan. And that's at 11 NNC section 11B. And what happens after the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee approves and adopts a school board apportionment plan? It is submitted to the Navajo Board of Election Supervisors for use in the elections. And that's at 11 NNC section 11E. And that's what's being provided. For purposes of the public hearing, the Health, Education, Human Services Committee has sponsored 5 in-person public hearings, and there was one at each agency that was scheduled. And the ones that were scheduled were on this past Monday. It was scheduled at Tuba City chapter. On Tuesday, it was scheduled at Chin Lee chapter. And on Wednesday, it was scheduled in the community of Shiprock at the high school auditorium. And on Thursday, it was scheduled in Eastern Agency at Crown Point at the Navajo Technical University Wellness Center auditorium. And today it was held this morning at the Fort Defiance chapter. And the other way that the public can submit their comment is through an email. The email setup is schoolboard@navajo-nsn.gov. And you can submit your comments through that email or through mail. If you would choose to mail your comments, you can mail it to the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. Attention, School Board Apportionment, School Board Apportionment, P.O. Box 670, Window Rock, Arizona, 86515. And also the other way that comments are accepted is if you choose to, is to fax them. And the fax number is 928-871-7474. And the other avenue that the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee is offering that comments be accepted is through Zoom, which is what you're joining us in this afternoon. So thank you. And the apportionment plan itself was attached to the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee resolution. And it also has the information where Central Navajo Agency, the Central Navajo Schools K through 12 have proposed a five-member board, and it's combining Rocky Ridge Boarding School, Cottonwood Day School, Mini Farms High School. And there are a total of 5 members, 1 for Chinle chapter, 2 for Mini Farms chapter, 1 at large with Round Rock and Rough Rock chapters. And the 5th one is at large at Touchy Blue Gap, Whippoorwill, Talani, Cottonwood chapters. And the second section of school board is the Chinle Navajo Schools, K through 12. It's a 5-member board. It combines Black Mesa Community School, Rough Rock Community School, Nazlini Community School, Lukachukai Community School, Pinyon Community School, Mini Farms Community School. And 1 will be at large with Lukachukai, Salee, Wheatfields, Round Rock chapters. 1 is going to be at large with Rough Rock and Mini Farms chapter. 1 is with Chinle chapter. 1 is at large with Hard Rock, Pinyon, Forest Lake, and Black Mesa chapters. And 1 is at large with Whippoorwill, Touchy, Blue Gap, Nazlini, Celana, Cottonwood chapters. And that's a total of 10 school board members in Central Agency. In Eastern Navajo Agency, you have 1 with Sheshbatoh, it 2 schools, K through 12. It's a 5-member board. It combines Bread Springs Day School, Chichelta Jones Ranch Community School, and Wingate K through 12 schools. And 1 member would represent at large with Chichelta, Bahadlin, Bread Springs, Setlachi, it's Red Rock, Manuelito, and Seattle chapters. And in another school board member would represent Church Rock chapter, and 1 member would represent Ayambato chapter, and 1 would be at large with Pinedale and Mariano chapters. And 1 would be at large with Peru, Baca Pruitt, and Smith Lake chapters. The second district would be East Oza Crown Point Schools is a 5-member board. It would combine with Baca, Tuleaji, I think community schools, Lake Valley Navajo School, Community School, Mariano Lake Community School, the Beh Yesha Hapatin Borrego Pass School, Ojo Encino Day School, Pueblo Pintada Community School, and in East Scotia Balta Community School. One member would represent Baca Pruitt chapter. One would represent an at-large Pinedale, Mariana Lake, Smith Lake, Theroux chapter. One is at-large with Standing Rock, and now Dishgish, Lake Valley, White Rock, and Crown Point chapters. One is at-large with Counselor, Ojo Encino, and Pueblo Pintada chapters. One is at-large with Vicente, Little Water, Casimiro Lake, and White Horse Lake chapters. The third area would be Eastern Navajo Schools, would be a 5-member board. It would be combining Nanijin, Joltap, Torion Day School, and Zithnau Dithli Community School, and Nahatzi Community School Dormitory. And so 2 members would represent Torion chapter, 2 would represent Herfino chapter, and 1 would represent Nayuzi chapter. The fourth area would be Alamo School Board, Navajo School Board, 5-member board, and 5 members would represent from Alamo chapter. 5, Rama School Board, Pine Hill School would be a 5-member board, and it would be 5 members from Rama chapter. 6, Toajale Community School, 5-member board, and 5 members would be from Toajale chapter. In Fort Defiance, 1 would be Hutzel Schools, a 5-member board. It would combine Pine Springs Day School, Sebe Devka Boarding School, and J. Des A Elementary School, and Crystal Boarding School. 1 is at large at Crystal, Red Lake and Crystal chapters, 1 with Whippoorwill chapter, 1 with Low Mountain chapter, 1 from Tisto chapter, 1 at large with Lupton Hawk Nahadatzil chapter. The second area in Fort Defiance would be Tseotso 2 Fort Defiance Schools, a 5-member board, combining with Hunters Point Boarding School, Wide Ruins Boarding School, Kindafachi Ota, Delcon Community School, Greasewood Community School, Chushkai Community School, Isiakin Residential Hall, and Winslow Residential Hall. 1 member would be at large from Noshchitty, Tohatchi, Coyote Canyon, Bahasla, Twin Lakes, Mexican Springs. 1 would be at large with Fort Defiance in St. Michael's chapter, 1 with Oak Springs, Hawk, Lupton, Nahadatzil, and Wide Ruins chapter. 1 would be at large with Steamboat, Kindafachi, Ganado, Klagato, Cornfields, and Wide Ruins chapter. 1 would be at large with Greasewood Springs, White Cone, Delcon, Jedito, and Eastso chapters. And it would be a total of 10 members. In Northern Agency, you have Northern Navajo School, 5-member board. It combines Cove Day School, Tanasti Day School, Big Clabato Day School, Tohana Community School, Anna Community School, East Naspas Community School, Ninansad Community School, Red Rock Day School. 1 is at large with Aneth, Red Mesa, Tlifacan, Sweetwater, Mexican Water chapters. 1 is at large with Tisnaspas, Bay Clabato, and Kudiai, Sedekan, Hogback chapters. 1 is at large with Cove and Red Valley chapters. 1 is at large with Tennessee, 2 Gray Hills, Tortolina, and Newcomb chapters. 1 is at large with Shiprock, Nunanzad, Upper Fruitland, and San Juan chapters. The second area is Ani Nez Schools, K through 12, a 5-member board. It combines with Shiprock Associated Schools, Kintil, Residential Campus, and Nitsa, I'm sorry, Rock Point Community School. The 2 members would be with Shiprock chapter, 1 at large with Rock Point and Round Rock chapters, 1 at large with Kudi'ai, Sedekon, Hogback chapters, and 1 at large with Sinosti, 2 Gray Hills, Totolina, Newcomb chapters. The 3rd area is for the Navajo Preparatory School, a 4-member board, 1 at large with Northern Navajo Agency, 1 at large with Eastern Navajo Agency, 1 at large with Fort Defiance Agency, and 1 at large with Chinle Navajo Agency / Western Navajo Agency. And that has a total, that area, the Northern Agency has a total of 14 school board members. Western Navajo Agency, Tuananastisa Schools, K through 12, 5-member board, combines the Nahotso Boarding School, Tonalea Day School, Kaibatoa Boarding School, Kayenta Community School, Tuba City Boarding School. 2 members would be at large with Tonalea, Tohanan Dizet, Tuba City chapters, Tuba City chapters. 1 at large with Inscription Rock, Inscription House, and Kaibatoa chapters. 1 at large with Botaway Gap, Coal Mine, Canyon, and Cameron chapters. 1 at large with Kayenta, Ojto, Benahotso, Chilchindato chapters. The 2nd area is Tuananastisa, Tuba City School 2, K through 12, a 5-member board, combines Little Singer Community School, Natisan Community School, Chilchimbatoa Community School, Kimplana Border Town Dormitory, Loop Schools Incorporated, Gray Hills Academy High School, Shanto Preparatory School. 2 members would be at large from Tonalea, Tonastisa chapters, 1 at large with Inscription House and Kaibatoa and Shanto chapters, 1 at large with Kayenta, Ojto, Benahotso, Chilchimbatoa, and Natisan chapter, 1 at large with Loop and City Toa, Bird Springs, Tolani Lake chapters. The 3rd area is a Richville Residential Hall for 4 members, 4-member board, 1 at large with Tuananastisa chapter, Tuba City chapter, Botaway Gap chapters. 1 at large with Denahotso and Kayenta chapters, 1 at large with Ojto and Rough Rock chapters, 1 at large with Wichita, Kaibatoa, and Navajo Mountain and Shanto chapters. And that would be a total of 14 school board member positions in Western Agency. And that's Plan 6. We're going to open to the comment periods section of this afternoon's public hearing. And if you would like to make a comment for the record, we appreciate if you use that little hand raising your hand that's on the Zoom that's provided. And if you could begin by introducing yourself, you could state your name and what chapter you're from or what organization that you're representing. And if we're going to have start off by limiting comments up to 5 minutes, and we would like you to finish your comment shortly thereafter. And if you could please keep your comments respectful. And this public hearing is to receive your comments regarding the School Board Apportionment Plan 6. Is there anybody
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Is this Kenneth Toledo, or can you state your name?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Kenneth Toledo. I'm from Torium Chapter, voting member, and also the school principal for Nanezhin School. I have a few comments. I'm going to begin with that I'm opposing Plan 6. Reason being is it's not well researched. It's not really well planned out. And the public is not well informed of Plan 6 as how it's supposed to be implemented. There's no action plan for school board and the reporting system as what they're going to be obligated to do. There's no local guidance on Plan 6 as well, as like for me, if we were to go Plan 6, how's that going to work for school administrators? Also, on Plan 6, I feel that the parents is going to be left out. All due respect for Mr. Polona mentioning Gallup McKinley School. They have one school board system at the administration level, but they're not representing and coming to the chapter house and making reports, so they're leaving out the parents as well. So I need to look at that. And then the other thing, since this was only about election, since Mr. Polona talked about school failure, I see that Doty doesn't have a blueprint. There's no state plan in terms of benchmarks, where we're going, how the school is supposed to function. That's at the Doty level, so that is really misleading right there. Also, Plan 6 is not good at all, period. So Plan 4 needs to be built up. So Plan 4 needs to stay so people can look at it, work with it, chip at it. Maybe at that, if we stay with Plan 4, maybe Doty can come up with a state plan. So where there's a good blueprint that can lead all the schools. Right now, the way I see it is Doty is just hounding and looking for the deficiencies. And when they find deficiencies, they don't help the schools. They just bang them on the head with it. So again, I oppose Plan 6. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Toledo, for taking the time to offer your comments. Is there anybody else that would like to offer their comments?
Hello.
Hello, can you please identify yourself?
Yeah, this is Husky Bryant from Choshque School Board.
Thank
I
you.
oppose this Plan 6 because we inherit a lot of corrupted areas in our school, and we correct it without any help from Doty. We asked for their help, but they didn't have the mean for it, because every time they tried to help other schools, they were sued or they had to get their hands off it. So we corrected ourselves. A lot of things that were not corrected, we done it ourselves. And also, there'll be some things that we might meet on the emergency purpose, like hiring our contract. We can contact each other at local level, as it is today, and then get the work going without hindering the classwork. So that's a good, successful things for the local school. And then with these money saving, like Mr. Halona said, principal will have more money to work with at the school level. I don't think so. Where's the Doty? Where's this money really going to go through? How much is going to come down is a question. But the way it is now, the principal is getting all the funding, the school's getting all the funding. We all work together for the best interest of our community. So let's keep it that way. And then Mr. Halona, like was said, comparing community school with Navajo reservation or concurrent school or VIA but the state has a huge staff for elementary, junior high, and high school students, which we don't have within our nation. Where's the money going to come from if the Navajo Nation is going to spill something like that? So let's stay with what we have now. And then nepotism. Only about 3 schools having that problem. And then the rest, where's the ruling ethics? When they come in, they have different interpretation of these nepotism. So it becomes a problem. So we oppose 6. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bryant. Do we have anybody else to offer a comment?
Good afternoon. This is Janice Damon.
If you could lower the volume of your phone.
Hold on.
Y'all need to mute your phones. Everybody needs to mute your phones. You'll get rid of that noise.
Okay, it's still low.
Somebody still has their phone open. It just takes one phone to interfere. Everybody needs to mute your phone except for who's going to be talking.
Okay, good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
There
we
you
can
go.
hear
Thank
you.
very much.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is Janice Damon. I'm calling from Hunters Point School. I've reviewed some of the different plans, and I just want you to remember one thing that's very important is it's supposed to be beneficial to the students and of course the administrators of the school. Sometimes we forget and we want to make sure it's accommodating us. I feel like whatever is beneficial to the students is what I would support. The other thing is with, just like with the veterans, when they tried to have public hearings, we found out that majority of the money was going to administration. So the veterans all got together and that never took place. So my concern is it seems like we're templating the same thing where the Department of Education would get all the administrative funds. I have worked with the Navajo Nation for 38 years, and usually when you do a public hearing, you already have your idea of what you want. So it's just a formality to have a public hearing. So I hope you're not making fools of us and we're crying out our hearts and talking about what we would like to see for the students. And then yet you're still going to go on and do what you want. That's my stance right now. And I'm sure everybody's had their say. And this is just coming from me as a parent, a grandparent, and an official. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Damon, for your comment.
You're welcome.
Okay, do we have any other individual that would like to offer a comment?
Yate. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Oh, Yate. Shidaya. I am from the Loop area. Roberta Gorman, and she a school board member right now, currently president, and also a Loop chapter president. Ado here Nana. Don't initially a Disney Hashkats on in Schligo. I don't can't let cheat as a Lana Bush's chain. I don't not in dash shade, no send your kin dash another. I could ego a son in a schlido a loop do a you see I represent my community, the Bird Spring and Talani Lake area. So you see Bashinigi a eat all you all heat zogi. Do be has ani hidden snago the hast onahla be data onahalan akodi plan 6 that on the shade do pasazi da to do jo the neck it tada adoti public hearing da nini to hajo pa nahanne oyat the neck echido balagana echido atro beso nan deto alchinya jipidet ito adolchin batas anido yego bidadet eko amado amasan hawadenas dahido bidet hajo bata hosnedo hajo be kilkit itiho adelnigo akut edenen ke doka otskilo alhinahas elokat beso ebakat esti edo don nilta halan halchen bata hajo ba la yego bichen das nas think at the cousin sign Nalni Neniki at each here at the Hajo that the Gato at the Hajo Ultrayan the Ahunitsi. A cocoa de beneath the air, adult little bit in a eat or Nalan. Shade or Shishliat at the Benat Agi. Hala aya and the rain at art. Nalso son Chief Manuelito, Bridget Kai Lada Ida Adini. Sharchin and the Edoltra. Ado Bugabishna has ungo ultra Nasnel Dolish. Bugan Nasnel Gobekea Nasnel. What's the hot egg on the Hailni? Hat no the Hanne. Nahajo Ban Hanne, he chose Sanadon, you must send the Halne eggy. Ayat ehoye eya nkitlas adoles nitsen. Ayat ehoye eya nat ani nitlenitsen. Akoti oni higal ado ne jo hajo shi ilne do shliat eta do jo naskata do jo bahonet. Epenina ayesi pasazeni e hawan namazet kombi nat yo. Aden has angi masando che so ke another ke. Kodi yezada alto dot a quick coin. The neck at each adalti. Jo ea batati de ea jonantingi. A cot ego ya a to jonel eda penashiti at opelotja nahadlen plan 6 agi adojo hawadan dalne. Benashe do basazin to betobe kesazid ebnashe hot. When it's going to jar test do a hit jon hansa kiss. A hair.
Pushing a chat, Ms. Gorman, for offering your comments. Do we have anybody else that would like to submit their comments regarding this Plan 6 of the School Board Apportionment Plan?
Yate,
Oh, Yate.
this year now, Husky Brant, I got two more other statements, obviously. We don't reduce college products, no hard, not any what on the with those the requirement, testing requirements, they're pretty low. It's thought I said, oh, you have to not skip. If they qualify that now, or that so. Issue that changing that, yeah, they got a hot that. I don't that. I don't need to board education, though, health committee. Head start, the yes, I just, this instant as a grandparents, community member that. But they lost $10 million, more than $10 million, and they're still losing. Now enrollment keeps declining. They can lose more money than what I has asked. I don't. Ida hita da dos ilneo kusi hot al chena il tegida as ananta. Yat hita that ilnation and ada no hin da so da no sagi. Ikidena joba bansi kiston halchen bayel tito lenjit. Amado joba yel tito ledo joba bansi ikos. Joba stedilne area uta. Ba hasido le sia kodi kun kabeho which da hada do ta nengate. Ito to asya needed. Asya to you bete da hade ito hanan kato le shasha yo. Even dan kada tagit ay hayat yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Bryant, for offering more comments. We have, I don't see any hands up, but we do have Honorable Delegate Paul Begay on the line. If your Honorable Delegate Begay, if you would like to offer any comments or welcoming the public hearing on Zoom this afternoon, it'll be appreciated. Honorable Delegate Paul Begay, are you on the line? Okay, but you might have to press *6 perhaps. Okay, do we have any other individuals who would like to offer their comment?
Good afternoon again, ma'am. This is Janice Damon. I forgot one more thing. Can I make a comment? Okay. Shouldn't this require the overall council rather than just the Health and Human Services? Because the Health and Human Services group is going to get all the blame. Why can't we have an overall consensus with all the, I think in the law it says that it should be council approved. So would it be just Health and Human Services? It should be council approved because it affects everyone on the Navajo Nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Damon. Do we have any other individuals who would like to make a comment?
Good afternoon, this is Jordan.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
My name is Jordan Ed City.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr.
Thank you, Ms.
Edsel.
Finale. So my comment, I represent the Navajo School Board Association. We represent school boards across the Navajo Nation, and so this comment is on behalf of the comments and feedback that we have received for the Fort Defiance Agency. School board members are in solidarity in this agency to oppose Plan 6. The reason for this opposition is that this plan does not work for their local communities. If you notice in the presentation that you had sent out, the chapters aren't really being represented. So in Title 11, it states that each chapter is supposed to have a representative. An at-large position does not represent these chapters. If you look at the second school board, you have Nosh, Chitty, Tehachapi, Coyote Canyon, Twin Lakes, and Mexican Springs as an at-large position. But if you notice, Mexican Springs will not get representation because that is the smallest chapter. With the most recent election, they only have 796 registered voters, whereas Twin Lakes, they have 1,348. And you can take this into account on the other chapters. You have chapters who are less than 1,000 who will lose out their representation. I just wanted to elaborate more on my comment about Title 11. You do have 67 schools, and according to the Navajo Nation Code, each school has to have at least 3 board members with a maximum of 7. So in a way, there should be a minimum of 201 school board members and a maximum of 335. Another violation that this apportionment plan says is, like I said, as far as representation, each community, you're taking voices from the community, which could be a civil rights issue. One example that has been brought up in the previous public hearings is you have at-large positions that are representative. You have Board of Election, Board of Education, council delegates. They receive no reports from their elected officials. Board of Education, I can say for an example is Board of Education, our representative has not come out to Tohajale to report on what is happening with education. Our council delegate in Tohajale has attended 5 out of the last 24, 30 meetings that the chapter has had. So you're really losing this representation for school board members. These at-large positions, they're going to be like the council delegates. You're going to spread them thin, so where they won't be able to represent the communities or hear the voices of their communities. And so I just wanted to reiterate that this is an election issue, not so much of an education issue. We will prepare a response to several of the comments that have been made regarding education, such as college success rates. I can be an example for that. I did take remedial courses, but it was my fault. I took remedial courses because I was not ready. It helped me out. So if you compare it to other schools, you have Gallup-McKinley County, the American Indian student population. The Gallup-McKinley County, if you look at the data on New Mexico Public Education Department, you see that the American Indian population is not doing good. Over 70% is not proficient. You're saying that we want our schools to be like Gallup-McKinley County. Even if you go up north to Central Consolidated, the most recent data, it has that same information. 70% of people or our students are not ready, they're not proficient. So if you're gonna provide the data, or if you're gonna use data that we can compare our schools to. You're talking about school board members spending a lot of money. It's just not school board members. I can say like we know there is troubled school board members out there, but not all school board members are there. The Navajo Old Scout School Board Association handles funds for school board training, school board stipends, school board travel. And I can say that school board members are below, they're not overspending, they're not what other educational entities have reported. So I just wanted to let you know, we need to get back to the table and look at this plan again. This plan is an election issue. You're stripping community voice with this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City, for offering your comment. There was a hand raised earlier. If you would like to, Lucinda Campbell.
Good afternoon. Thank you for accepting our public comments. Yad A. Shea Lucinda Campbell, Trisha Nishlin, Kintlachitni Bashishchi, Taylor Donna Shah. I am a full-time mother and grandmother and a part-time elected official representing Taylor Wheatfield's chapter on the Lukachukai Community Board of Education. I am in my first term and completely find satisfaction in supporting and witnessing the school improvement that is becoming evident within our tribally controlled schools on the Navajo Nation. Not only do I respectfully oppose Plan 6, but our Lukachukai Community Board of Ed also approved a resolution of opposition to Plan 6 in May of 2020. It was not that long ago that groups like DeBosva, DGSA, and NAGSAW consistently and conscientiously implemented relevant trainings to the Navajo community members who became board members. These ideas behind the tribally controlled school was that an everyday Dene citizen could actually become a leader in their communities and school systems. I believe that is an idea first and foremost that is being communicated to our Navajo students. I also acknowledge the many challenges that currently exist within our school systems. Yes, there is nepotism, rule and ethics, and audit findings, but that also exists in all branches of our government, Navajo and United States alike. Only continued participation will heal and promote correction. This is what our status quo is. It makes sense to the local communities of our Navajo Nation and encourages Dene citizen participation at a relevant level. There are dollars set aside for such participation, and I believe that the aforementioned organizations are working in real time to provide these trainings. I also believe that changes may need to occur within the education system. I respectfully ask that our tribal schools not be compared to others. We are not Gallup unified or Flagstaff unified. If you went from one part of town to the other, your whole tax bracket could change. There is only one tax bracket here, 0. You certainly have the schools within those systems that are not doing as great as those in the higher tax brackets. Tax bracket here, 0. You certainly have the You have the schools within those systems that are not doing as great as those in the higher tax brackets. Their school achievement reports are based on averages of the whole. We know as educators that most of the reservation, more educated and affluent parents put their students in the public school systems or Navajo prep. Those schools are doing quite well academically. Those are not the average parents or students at most of our tribally controlled schools, though. I believe as we improve our school systems, they could be. We are right at the top of positive changes that will only work in our students' favor. That is what keeping the current system will ensure. Payoff of the Navajo Nation's current investment. Current school boards are making efforts to correct the oversights of the past, acknowledging their inherited board deficiencies. Every chapter should be allowed to be represented during these rebuilds at these community schools. Lukuchukai Community Board of Ed currently has a $79 million new school construction project, which took 20 years of planning and years to obtain the budget. Under this current Plan 6, this community and chapter could go without any representation in their new school. There are other local community schools who have started the process of new school construction under the premise that their communities would retain local control, not local advisory committees that can only submit their requests as considered recommendations. That would be an atrocity. We and every small chapter deserve our local representation, not the suggested at-large positions. Thank you.
Oh, that was good.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell, for your comment. Do we have any other individuals who would like to offer their comment?
Hello,
Hello? Can you
I'm
state your-
online.
Okay, thank you. Can you state your name and where you're from and or what organization you might be affiliated with?
Okay, Shea Lucita Nolan from Pablo Pintado, New Mexico. I have a comment on what Mr. Halona have stressed before, that all these issues that are going on in the school, that it starts with the school board and Shiknohadzi. I'm one of the school boards, so interview data as negi. Era epic ede tayinistan Shiknon Hahadne. Nihayastki. Edo what Ada. There is a process that we go through. Interview. It all starts from the advertisement, and then it goes on down the line. Interview. Interview. When we do the final selection, we review the application and make sure that this person is qualified for the job. And there are criteria, that we go by. Even if one of our relatives is going through the interview, the final selection, if one of our relatives is in there, we are asked to remove. We don't sit in there and approve their selection. They don't come out here and monitor the school or evaluate the school. Ado is the base of the orient neta tan hit. When shego ni hundal do I put it she base 你这或打了一的，就会或打就哈是被啥的，还是这的还热身的，或的 chapter 的或打里啊，或者东的就可以的。啊，可别的到或打会打还的呀，啊你那设计基本的，you know, but the other we are fooling around with precious lives. 快点就把那哈呀的，都可能是他的或把那哈呀的，的要打几个不是干那去的哈是的哈说这那去要打去，然后呀你马上去 change 哪里的，哪里是哪里啥的，但弄的的那谁说的，是多的意思啊，那意思我没把那老的。خليت آدم أوبركانيك أشد أي تشوتشي إلي يابنا بهتشتين صندوق كه.
Oh, yeah, we're offering your comment. Are there any other individuals that would like to submit a comment?
I would. I have my hand raised.
Okay,
Speak.
thank you.
Ja, she a bahajan Nicole Kitsugishi and she had Twitty in a slip at Annie Bashichi. Tabaha de Shichi, Ashi Hedashanala, not to sign that Nasha. Right now I'm currently holding the position as a Kaibata Boarding School Board President. I have for the past 5 years. And then I'm also a parent and community member for Kaibata and Alpha Mountain. The past week, I've been listening into these school board or the hearings, listening to people all over the nation comment and see how their schools are, listening to their experiences. And if you've listened, you can understand that we all have the same issue as school board members and communities. And I'm speaking directly to Hesse. I see Honorable Slater. I personally want to thank you and Honorable Paul Begay for coming into these meetings this past week. That shows that your representation and you're listening to the communities. And Honorable Polona, you as well for seeing you today. I really do wish that all the other delegates would have been online this past week to listen to us. You know, this for me personally, I think this is the first step in listening to your people. You guys were elected from all our communities and representing us, and to be here and listen to us is a big issue. But the thing that I have been really advocating for this past week was school boards. I agree with a lot of the people that spoke today. As school board representatives or election representatives, you know, we all endure the same thing. And I know a lot of maybe council delegates, if you've held another position and you haven't been in the education world that we're in, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed, a lot. And it's not just school boards. It's not our fault. You know, we're not all the same. Our communities all need different things. And that's where we looked for support and help. I like to think of this position as a job. Although it's just an election, we're elected into these positions. I like to think of this as a full-time job. And it is. Realistically, if you want something to happen, you have to put your 100% into it every single time. If you want change, you have to be driving a window rock every other week just to make sure, you know, you're advocating for your people, your communities. And it's a lot of work. And along with saying that, I mean, the one issue I want to bring up is HESTA committee. Not too long ago, our school board, Kaibata Boarding School, advocated to remove our principal from our school. You know, she was doing a lot of things that she wasn't supposed to be doing under the direction of BIE. And with your help, after we came to you and we advocated long and hard with the BIE all the way into Washington, D.C., she was removed. But now that we've been trying for the past 3 years now, trying to place a principal within our school. I've sat on every single interview. And I've heard people who really want to come out here that had the passion to come help our Navajo people and to make a difference and help us improve. And we've submitted several recommendations, but you know what? They always go for the people who are just mediocre. And it's our voices as school board members are never heard. They don't listen. BIE. They never come to our meetings. They don't supervise our schools like they're supposed to, you know? And we also have Dodie. Dodie does the same exact thing. They don't come to our meetings. You hardly ever see them, even at the our regional meetings when we have over here in Western Agency. They don't help. So like I said before, it's like a job. You have somebody who oversees, and that's who oversees us. We have Dodie and we have BIE, and they don't get it done. And I think that's where the part where you all have to understand is that's where the issue lies. And you know what? It's funny because when we advocate as board members, BIE likes to look down on us and say, hey, you're not on our level. We're we deal with HESI up here. And we're sitting over here thinking, well, you know, that's how it is. Or same with Dodie, you guys are below us. We're over here in Window Rock. We're the head honchos. That we have to deal with us. We have no say. Literally, we are just an advisory is what it says. But you know, we're the ones that know more about each and every our communities. And that's where we need your support. That's where we need our help, but we're not receiving it. And our schools, we're all different. We all know what we need. We have money. There's money in these schools. There's a lot. I know how the money goes. The money comes from Washington, D.C. It goes over to Window Rock. Everybody takes their percentage out of there. And then once we take our I think it was $15,000 for each of us school boards. That's it. So this is a money issue. There's money. School boards aren't taking it. And when it comes to contracts that come through these schools, you know who's moving it around? BIE. I'm a BIE funded school. Our school's BIE funded. So that's what I see. They put it more into their administration and their staff. And then when we try to hold them accountable, we hold our staff, hey, these are our grades coming through. Why are kids failing? Why are we failing school? Why? You know? Oh, we're doing perfectly fine. We report to BIE. BIE is our, you know, they're our boss.
Excuse me, we're at six minutes now.
So anyways,
go ahead and conclude. Thank you.
Okay, so that's kind of what you haven't seen our side of the story and what we have been enduring. And this is just 5 years for me. I can't speak for all the other boards because I know a lot of people have been on the board for a lot longer than I have. But I think I know the issue lies within over there in Window Rock. And that's the part where you guys should be tackling, not school boards. That's not going to help us. So like I said before, go fix the top of the food chain. We're at the bottom of the food chain. And that once you do that, HESI, Dodie, once you guys all start doing your jobs out there, you'll start seeing a big difference within our schools and you'll start helping us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a few of our delegates on the line, particularly from the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. We have Honorable Delegate Pernell Halona and Honorable Delegate Paul Begay, Honorable Delegate Carl Slater, and he's the Vice Chair of the Health, Education, Human Services Committee. And we also have the Honorable Delegate Daniel So, and he's the Chair of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. So they are taking your comments and listening to them. Do any of the council delegates would like to make any comments at this time?
Ms. Benali, if there's no one else who's going to make a comment, I'll make one. This is Delegate Slater.
Thank you. I don't see anybody raising their hand. Thank you, Council Delegate Slater.
Thank you, Ms. Benali, and thank you to everyone who's shared your thoughts today. Our HES meeting wrapped up and I was able to get on to this school board apportionment public comment. So I think it's really important for everyone to just take a step back and remember the process that we've been engaging in. And that is, toward the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020, the committee reached out to DeBosba and various schools at different times to discuss this matter and seek feedback on what we could do to construct a system that works better for our students. And presently, the system that we have is arbitrary. It's just assigning an arbitrary number of school board members to a school based off of enrollment. It's not like there is some data that substantiates the number per students. And then in places where, school board communities don't have students represented within the school, I think that's just something to keep in mind based off of this enrollment plan. That I think there's about 5 or 6 communities that the DeBosba or someone recognized as not being included within the plans, and that's because they don't have students enrolled in the schools. So that raises some good fundamental questions about what does representation mean, what does local control mean, and what are the advantages. But as long as you start with the premise that the experience of the student in the classroom is number one and work from there, I think it helps diffuse a lot of the emotions, and I'll just say really lack of critical thinking in a lot of the arguments that are being made right now. It is unfair to just dump this totally back on BIE and DOTI when we have a structural issue when we're talking about a system. And this is the Navajo Nation education system. So we're all participants in it, and we're all trying to improve student success, I would presume. But the fact remains that when you have, say, 66 schools on Navajo, and right now it's about evenly split between BIE administered and then our grant schools, that presents a big issue for governance. As I've explained on a couple other comments, we've seen declining DOTI budgets. So it means there's fewer dollars to help support the schools, but DOTI really has very little ability to implement direct change in either BIE or the grant schools. Grant school boards say, don't touch us, we're the governing board. The BIE schools report to the BIE, so they can't touch them. It's only when something's gone terribly awry that they're able to go in and investigate and try to make recommendations to the Navajo Board of Education or to the Bureau of Indian Education, who would pursue really those issues on that end. So let's look at that system. How do we strengthen it? Well, it's an administrative burden to have all of these different entities to deal with a very limited number of staff and resources. So we say, oh, well, they're not doing their job at the top, but they're not the ones in the classroom. They're not the ones who make the policies and the procedures, do the hiring for these grant schools. That's the school board. And on the BIE school side, it's more of an advisory capacity. So we got to make sure that we don't mix apples and oranges. And in this plan, it segregates the grant schools from the BIE direct administration schools where they serve in that advisory capacity. So again, how do we look at this as a system? The system puts an administrative burden where you have to deal with 66 different entities. If you streamline it and say, collect information from a set of schools and present those issues to the Bureau or to DOTI for intervention or supplemental resources, things of that nature, I think that it's fair to say it'd be easier to conduct business. And that means that you're going to have less time and money spent on administrative matters that takes away from direct in-person classroom instruction. And that'll be ultimately good for our students. So these are presumptions because this hasn't been implemented before. But what is very striking to me about this past week is that we don't really believe in a Navajo education system from the people who are speaking. And that said, I've only heard a couple parents speak and one kid speak. I haven't been able to make every single meeting, so I know that that's not representative, and I'll be able to get all the people who spoke in their comments and be able to review them. But we've heard only from folks who have a direct financial, they have their hand in the cookie jar in this matter. When I present these issues to my constituents at my chapter meetings or have conversations with them in other arenas in the communities, they don't take this the sky is falling approach. they're interested to see how this might improve education. And the idea that one school board or one instance is representative of the whole system is not true. I think we hear from a lot of really strong advocates, or to universalize the experience of one executive director of DeBosba and say, well, that's saying it's that you're universalizing one experience to say, well, it was my fault, therefore it must be every single other student's fault who ended up in a remedial position when they went to college, is just really beyond the pale of any sort of intellectual rigor. And what we've seen over and over again is that by having a diffuse system with very, I'd say, few internal controls that can accommodate such a widespread, devolved nature of education to these local school boards, you create the opportunities for mismanagement or the opportunities to let things slide where if you were, I'd say, in a consolidated board, you'd potentially be able to be more aggressive and implement a consistent set of standards across more schools. So when the committee approached DeBosba and the communities, we asked, what can we do to reform this system to make it better? And the committee was slapped with a lawsuit and just said, don't do anything. So what educational reforms are acceptable to school boards? It's not the Diné School Accountability Plan. It's not 638ing the BIE administrative functions over to the Department of Diné Education so that they could actually have the resources to implement the things that the school board members during this week are desiring. How can we get them more resources to implement the support networks that are needed? And then how can we provide that accountability? So I mentioned in a previous set of comments, what is our vision? Well, I think our vision needs to be that the Navajo Nation is in the driver's seat, that we actually are asserting full control over all aspects of our education system so that politically elected leadership, your leadership, can hold the school system, its administrators and its teachers accountable. And right now it's too diffuse. And this is one way to try and get us into that area. But to be frank, the only comments I've heard are saying local control, which means you want the buck to stop with you, but then you blame everything back on Doty and the BIE. If you have $20,000 per student, as Doty analyses have provided, that's way more than the $7,000 per state that goes to public instruction, say in the state of Arizona, where they have 230 school districts. They have a population of about 6.8 million people, so it's about 30,000 per school district. If we're just talking people, not necessarily students. On the Navajo side, I think that's about like 2,500 if you divide it by 66, and in a reservation population of 175,000. So it's more than tenfold what exists on the state system. Yes, the states are not perfect. Yes, they shouldn't be compared. That was one of the reasons we came out starting in 2020 and asked, what can we do to make sure there's a balance between governance, not having an exponential number of school board members if we consolidated them, but also balancing the need for people to travel far distances, say if you're in Western Agency or certain parts of Eastern Agency or other areas. But again, what were we met with? Don't touch it, leave it alone. Everything's working fine, except that we're not responsible. It's BIE and Doty that are failing the students. Yet they have declining resources and they're not accountable to the Navajo government on the BIE side. So we need an articulation of a vision from DeBosba, from the school board members, aside from just swatting the hand away that's trying to implement education reform. This is education reform for the sake of future generations. If you talk to Doty, from what limited information they're able to actually obtain from schools on performance data and from BIE, because remember, they have to go to a federal agency to receive this information. And they are not responsible to the Navajo Nation like Doty itself is. They're in the federal side. And then going to the contract schools saying, well, we have a direct relationship with the federal government. Doty, don't touch us. Those are the obstacles we confront as a system, and it harms the child. It harms the student experience and their success. We can't talk about a true Navajo Nation education system right now because of the way things are set up. And language, culture, and Western educational attainment, I think, are worse now than at any point in Navajo Nation history. So to parade out that somehow cultural and language instruction is going to be diminished in this effort is hogwash. There's nothing to substantiate that. And I think that sharing resources, not competing for resources, figuring out where there's administrative bloat and where we can consolidate positions to move toward that sort of unified system will be good. But we need feedback on what are some other ways to involve local community involvement and control. But control for control's sake is not beneficial. How is that going to improve the academic success of our students? I go to nearly every single one of my chapter meetings, and I've never seen a report on student success at any of my chapter meetings from any of the 3 community schools that are in my district. When people come up for reauthorization, that's the only time that they ask. And oftentimes the presentation isn't even done. They just approve it because they know they aren't able to get someone to come in. That's not the precedent that our people need. If it really is that great, why is the success poor? Why isn't there actual local accountability when it comes to reporting back to the chapters? Maybe we need to take a breath, reevaluate the plan, and implement some new ideas so that there's answers to some of the issues that have been raised. But that's only if we're operating in good faith with a good faith partner. Otherwise, we're just being taken for a ride. And I think that's not fair to the kids. We've asked for real feedback for over a year now. And it's just been, don't touch it, things are fine, but BIE and DOTI are the problem. That's not going to make things better for our kids. So thank you so much for your comments. I think it is loud and clear that school board members want this to stay the same, but we need to hear a more diverse set of opinions that will inform this process. And I think we should all encourage community members and everyone to submit written comments by September 30th and maybe thereafter. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Honorable Delegate Slater. Are there any other delegates who are on the line who would wish to make a comment?
This is Bahajan Kitso again. I would like to make a comment.
Okay, can you state your name and where you're from, what chapter you're affiliated with, and if you represent an organization?
This is Bahajan Kitso from Kaimito, Arizona.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So my comment would be, after what Honorable Slater just stated, I feel as a community member that everything, and as a school board member and a parent, everything that I have voiced this past week didn't mean anything. You literally have the school board members and parents telling you all that we do not agree with Plan 6. And we're literally screaming and saying, these are the issues at hand. And to be diminished and just put aside and say, hey, well, it's not their fault. It is. I'm sorry, but this is exactly what we face. Exactly, just the comment that was made. This is what we face on a day-to-day basis within our schools. Nobody listens. Put it aside. You have your hand in the cookie jar. That's not how all of us school board. That's not what we signed up for. We signed up to improve the education for our children. We worry about our communities. And for all of those who have heard me and seen me in Window Rock and have read my emails all these past years, you definitely know that I am a school board member that has put in my time and my effort to ensure improvement within my school for my children, for our students. And this is the problem. You want a vision? We want that vision too. We want to improve the education. Grades are horrible within our schools. They're Fs. Our kids are being pushed through with Fs. If you guys want to do improvement, if you want to change something, you need to help school boards. And that's by holding everyone accountable, BIE and DOTI. Yes, what Honorable Slater stated about BIE, they don't have to live up to Navajo Nation. But that's the problem. Navajo Nation should be holding the government. We have a contract with them. We have a Sovereignty Act that should be put in place that they would help educate our students, and they're not. That is the issue. That's where legal analysis should be happening. People should be sued right now because the government is not being accountable. They're doing what they want within our schools, and they're not helping our kids. You want data? I've seen the data across the board from DOTI. They gave it to us, and it's not anywhere of sufficient. We have teachers being paid over $50,000 a year. We have administration getting over $100,000 a year, and we're pushing out kids with failing grades. That's the reality. Where's the problem? It's not school boards. Again, I will say that again. It is the people above us. Just like with the elections, look, there's issues happening with the elections office. Look at Head Start. Head Start fell apart. Like, how do you not understand that? How do you not see where people are not being held accountable and doing their jobs, and we're just falling apart? So that's something that needs to be looked at. That's what you guys have to understand and listen to us. Yeah, we may be school board members, but you also have to remember that we're volunteering and we are elected, and we are also parents and community members and registered voters of this nation, Navajo Nation. And don't overlook that and don't mix them up. Thank you for your time.
Are there any, if you could mute your phone, it would be appreciated. We can hear the speaker speak.
I'm here from the community. Okay, very good.
Can you restate your name, please?
Can I make a comment?
I think the other gentleman was, I just want to make sure if he was going to start making a comment before
Okay.
you. Okay. Sir, could you state your name? I heard a little, you began to make a remark, but I couldn't hear your name. Hello? Is it Kirby Johnson?
Oh, I was waiting for you
Okay.
for the other person.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and go, Mr. Johnson, because I don't know if the other person is still on the line, but you did have your hand up earlier.
Okay. Yate she Kirby Johnson Yanisha touching Hashbishi Bashchin, but that need Kiani Che. I'm a school board member and a Navajo voter, and I represent Kintil Residential Campus. And I just wanted to make a comment that, yes, we keep blaming DOTI, but when we lost our quorum, DOTI came and helped us. So I'm kind of finding it hard to believe that sometimes DOTI's not there and all this when we needed help to open the dormitory for the kids to come back to school. They were there to help us. And I just wanted to make that comment. And the other thing was, this is just about school board apportionment, not a takeover, not taking the administration or anything. That's the message that always gets confused when you go to these conferences. They try to use this scare tactic saying they're going to take over your schools, your dorms, everything. The burrito lady is going to lose her job. The community is going to be in a turmoil, downfall. Jobs are going to leave. And they keep using Head Start as a main fear pushing thing to make other school boards jump on this bandwagon when it's mainly just to help improve the educational system for kids. And I'm just tired of hearing this thing over and over, and change needs to happen. And it needs to happen now for the kids, because the kids are the ones who are being behind. And that's the main thing I ran for the school board, was to help the kids. So I just wanted to make that statement, and thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your comment. Are there any other participants who want to submit or state a comment? I don't see anybody with their hand up. Are there any other Health, Education, and Human Services Committee members who might want to make a statement? I don't see anybody with their hand up. Are there any other Health, Education, and Human Services Committee members who? Could you mute your phone? I think we're getting some feedback.
Andrew, this delegate, hello.
Yes, we hear you, Honorable Delegate Halona.
I just want to make a couple of quick comments there. First of all, I appreciate everybody on the line that made their comments. Second of all, I wish you guys were around when we first started this process, because when we first started this process, that was the only thing we heard from any of the school board was status quo, status quo. That's all we want. We don't want any change. That's the only thing we heard. Today, I'm hearing different things about how the school boards are functioning, the problems that they're having, that they're running into. You know, we should have heard those things from the very beginning, and we might have a different outlook today. So I appreciate all your comments. I really appreciate the honesty that you have put forward in today's comment period. The other thing I would like to express is that when we make changes, people are afraid of change. We don't really know and believe that it's going to help us until it's really done and a change has been made and implemented, and that they can see that it's doing something to benefit your lives, whatever the situation may be. I look at it from this standpoint. Over the years, we used to drive wagons. We used to ride horses. That was our livelihood. But hey, you don't see horses and wagons sitting outside the schools, outside the stores. You see vehicles, cars. That's a change. And it evolves. This is the kind of change we want to try to implement. You see the change that we had to go through with the Navajo Nation Council when there was 88 council members. Everybody was complaining, oh, we're not getting anything done. Nothing's happening for our people. We're caught in the edge and nobody's helping. And so you cut down the council to 24 members, but you leave the same amount of work on top of those 24 members. That should have been divided up, and some of that extra work should have been given to the chapters to take up the slack. Right today, I try to go to every one of my chapter meetings too. But I have so many other things that need to be addressed with all of the Navajo Nation. One of them is the schools. As a committee, we have a lot of responsibility where we have oversight over the school system, over the health system, over the Veterans Administration, and all of these programs require a tremendous amount of effort and time to make sure that everything is running accordingly, make sure everybody has enough funds to keep operating. But as the Navajo Nation Council cut down to 24, we made a change. We didn't cry about it. We didn't upset about it. We just moved into those positions and do the best thing that we can, the best job that we can to try to help the Navajo people. That's why we're here. That's why I was joined the election, was because I wanted to make a change for the people. And change comes slow sometimes. Change comes fast sometimes. But this is another one of those changes, just like from the wagons and horses to all these race cars and trucks that we're running around in today. The housing program, electric, water. We didn't have any of that running water in our homes. We didn't have any bathrooms in our homes. We didn't have no electricity. Now we have it. And we're still working on it to try to make sure that everybody has those facilities where they can live comfortably. We're trying to make the lives of the Navajo people better. This apportionment plan is a step in that direction. And like I said, I wish I would have listened to all you guys and heard all you guys when we first started meeting. But when the school board came down to the meetings, the ones that were there, they didn't have any suggestions. They didn't have any tell us what situations they were having. All they said was status quo. Leave it alone. We don't want to change. But change is inevitable. We're going through the biggest change in our lives right now with global warming. There's a lot of places now that had water, running water in your homes. The wells have dried up. Look at the wells out there in the across the Navajo Nation where they've dried up because we aren't getting enough rain, enough moisture here. There's all these things that we have to address. This little bit of change right now, we need to get used to working with it. Life is about changing all the time. Life changes as we move along. But we don't like change. We want everything the same. Sometimes even if it doesn't benefit us, we still do it. Until later on you realize it. Yeah, we should change it. We need to do something different. And that's what I'm saying right now. I really don't believe just turning my back. I don't believe in turning my back on a situation that needs to be corrected somehow. And this is the reason why I support this Plan 6. It's a change that we need to try to move forward with. And as we move along, we can implement, add to it, improvise in different ways to make it work for our students, the kids. Nobody in those meetings that we had at the beginning, they just said, status quo, we don't want any change. Nobody mentioned anything about Apportionment. We aren't getting good education for our kids. They're going to school, but they're not getting good grades. A lot of them are getting bad grades, not learning. I didn't hear anything like that from anybody. So today, so those are just a few comments extra that I wanted to make, and I really appreciate all your efforts to bring this to the forefront here today. And it's going to give me a different viewpoint on how we should change. Another thing that we've been talking about for the last 25 years, I found out, was the State Education Agency, where we run our own schools on the Navajo Nation, BIE and 638 under one umbrella, that we're in control. Everybody keeps saying that, oh, they don't have a plan. They don't have a plan. Doty doesn't know what they're doing. Doty this and Doty that. No, we're not working together. That's the other thing. We need to learn how to work together, and it's not for us. It's not for you. It's not for me. It's for the children, the kids, our future. This is what I'm about. The future of our educated kids. That's what's going to make this nation strong. Look at our population. We're up to 400,000 population right now. In 10 years, hopefully it's going to be 500,000 or maybe 600,000. But it's going to change. We need to change with it. So with that, again, I thank all of you for all your responses. And don't think that we're not listening, because, man, I'm listening. I heard a lot of good points that you guys people have brought out here. But it's that change. People are afraid of a change in the system. We should not be afraid of a change if it's going to benefit our children. We should at least try to give it a chance to make it work. And that's what I'm asking here today. Give us a chance to let us see if we can make it work this way. Instead of just going out the door and not changing anything and just keep going on. And how long can we do that? So thank you all very much again. I appreciate all your comments again. And if I offended anybody, I apologize to you all. If I offended anybody, I did not mean to. But that's where that's my viewpoint right there. Thank you. Angie?
Yes, thank you, Honorable Delegate Halona, for your statement. We have one more person that has their hand up that would like to make a comment. That's Mr. Sherrick Roanhorse.
Hi there. Good afternoon. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and honorable members of the Navajo Nation Council Education Committee, as well as several of the community members and school boards who are listening in. My name is Sherrick Roanhorse. I am from the community of Steamboat. I'm a registered chapter member from Steamboat, but you know, my family's also from Ganado and Cornfields and that general area. So Ganado, Steamboat, Cornfields is my home. I did get a chance to look at the Plan 6. I got a chance to look into Plan 6, and it was really humbling to hear the different perspectives. I listened in throughout the week. I got to hear board members. I've got to hear elders, and it's good that we're hearing from the community, and it's good to hear whether we like it or not. It's also good to hear, you know, what folks are really thinking, and it's also it gave me a chance to really reflect on what it means to be a board member. For me, I'm also a school board member as well. I represent 27 chapters in the Fort Defiance agency. I've been serving on a school board for a little over 6 years now. I'm sort of losing track. But within that time frame, we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot of things change take place. And, you know, one of the biggest challenges that I've seen as a board member was, you know, dealing with the loss that many of our families have experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic. That has been a challenge, and I know it hits many of our families, and it hits many of our families, our relatives, and it's been a really tough 2 years, and it's been such a tough experience, and it's also gave me time to reflect. And one thing I've also realized is, you know, you wonder, what's the role of a school board? The role of a school board is to give direction, give support, and ensure that your administration, your principal, your superintendent, or your head of school is doing what they need to do and have the resources that they need to get the job done. For our school, and I'm a school board member for Navajo Prep. I'm also a graduate of Navajo Prep, and that's, you know, my heart's always there. I take my role, like many other school board members, I take my role seriously because I know I represent various communities and I represent our students. And through this whole pandemic, one thing that worked right for us is just having a strong governance system. And as board members, we rely on our administrators to get things done. And we're a small board, but I do think that in order to meet some of these challenges, you have to have a good governance system in place. And when I look at the Plan 6, I see that the plan has been revised. There's less school boards, and I guess if you look at it from another perspective, I also see it as it might be a good thing. I think that if you bring resources together from various chapters and you have people on the same page and who bring knowledge and experience and resources to the table, I think you'll be in a better place to meet some of these challenges. And I'm just using the pandemic as an example. If it weren't for good governance and a good administration, we probably wouldn't have been able to help our kids. And as you know, through the pandemic, it's been challenging where some of our children didn't have access to remote learning or have access to some of the IT resources. But that's just something I wanted to share. I do thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak a little. And one thing I also wanted to share as well is just, I know folks were wondering about, who our school is. And, I represent Navajo Prep. And, there's also questions about why our school has board members from different agencies. And just for clarity, we're a Navajo nationwide school, and we're a school that was created by the Navajo Nation government. And as a board member and all of my colleagues, we see it as that is we represent everyone on this call, and we represent the 110 chapters because it was a school that was created by the Navajo Nation. With that, thanks so much. Have a great weekend. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Roanhorse, for submitting your comment. It is now 3:01, and that concludes the public hearing for this portion.
Ms. Benali,
Yes,
this is Melvin Harrison with the Navajo Board of Election Supervisors. Could I just say something real quick?
would a minute do?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
So they calling the side and J. Melvin Harrison, that's the Navajo Board of Election Supervisor, RJ8, Kodo 8 they calling the Sado, they Fashit A. Comba Win, any question will ye Oscar, quite Oscar, they just go in any. Jo A. Shah, they Fashita Ban, Toki, Sigi, Chan Kitty, Nido Lake. Kodo is Mr. A. or Kodo A. in the way. Health Committee, Jo are the not so saying which ego, Ado Kodo A. Heshiba don't Ninigi A. Kong out other than today. In the Quaba Hono Sendole, are they call Shikano Sini? In Shin last, the nation just has other, just has other. Naha Shikadishla Nahe, Hasata. That Naha Quid, she, Amma. جاء الشيء النلن ليني أمثلا لين إنك ياهية school board ليه خيطاس هذا نسا لو خطان خنا لسان كده نو إنك ياهي خليت إيلان سامبان سس كيسة كوكاي ده يبان سو كيسة خاصين سو إنك نيشت كوخيشي لو خط أقو إيمودا إنك كنت نيشت خيشين كيس ياهي Ako George na George Yati Judy Cojes school board that Nije RJA Dodi do health committee do the those but do just George A is oil in election J 19 I got out of what 8 or late or what out on Haban's case Kodit o she nan kitish ni dolis. Ado kodoshi na so e kodo e di kon hada hospit o she na so sukani ni dolis. Ado e na so e nugain court de na hon ani bik ho e na so e she bik ho na da il na dolis. A kore dolis she.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harrison, for your statement and your comment. It's much appreciated. This concludes our segment for the Zoom public hearing. It is 3:04. I appreciate your, I appreciate everybody's attendance and the attendance and time that you put into this public hearing this afternoon. So you all have a good weekend, and we'll move forward with this. Thank you. Yeah.